ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD කෝල්ස් ගන්න SLT ෆෝන් එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Making headlines on First at 9. Passing of a veteran. The National mourns the death of veteran film director, producer and screenwriter Dr. Lester James Peris.
He is the father, he is the teacher of the real national Sri Lankan cinema.
He would never die, just like his movies.
He was a lovely human being having so much of humor.
Cabinet reshuffle. Politicians called to be present at Presidential Secretariat tomorrow. Ministerial portfolios to be gazetted on a scientific basis.
I have been requested to be present tomorrow at the Presidential Secretariat.
Redirect attention. JVP says the new appointments to cabinet is a joke. Calls on government to focus on pressing social and economical issues.
As a party, we think this is not the real solution for the people.
No faith. SRPP chairman says earlier deadlines have already passed and government has failed to honour pledges.
There were a couple of deadlines that were given. Those came and went without any action.
New face to counter immigration criticism. Second generation immigrant, Pakistani born Sajid Javid, appointed new Home Secretary of Britain. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katharina Chang. On to your top story tonight. Veteran Sri Lankan film director and producer, also known as the father of Sri Lankan cinema, Dr. Lester James Peris, passed away yesterday at the age of 99 while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo. The veteran director has earned several awards and accolades both locally and internationally, including the Sri Lanka Abhimanya title, the highest honour for a civilian in Sri Lanka. Funeral proceedings of veteran film director will be held on Wednesday, the 2nd of May, under state patronage.
Dr. Lester James Peris was born on the 5th April 1919 in Dehiwala to Dr. James Francis Peris, who had studied medicine in Scotland, as well as a cricketer for a Scottish club, and Anne Gertrude Winifred Jayasuriya. He was educated at St. Peter's College, Colombo, before dropping out to pursue a career in journalism at the age of 17, first working with the Daily News and later in 1939 joining the Times of Ceylon. In 1947 he travelled to England, where he began pursuing his passion for the cinema, and after successful assignment he returned to Ceylon in 1952 to embark on a career in filmmaking. In 1956, Dr. Peris made his entry into national cinema, directing the globally acclaimed movie Raycarver, which was a story based on village life. Raycarver was nominated for the Palme d'Or in 1957, the highest accolade awarded at the Cannes Film Festival. With this film, he revolutionized Sri Lankan cinema, thus creating a unique identity, as it was the first Sri Lankan movie to be shot outdoors. Dr. Peris has been involved in over 28 films, including short and documentaries. The veteran was also known for his other movies Vakande Walawa, Gamperaliya, Delawak Atara, Ransalu, Golu Hadawata, Madol Duwa, Nidhanaya and Yugantaya. His film Nidhanaya was hailed as the best Sri Lankan film so far and was the only Sri Lankan film to be included in the top 100 movies of the world. His movie Vakande Walawa, starring Ravindra Randeniya and Malini Fonseca, was Sri Lanka's first ever submission for the Academy Awards. Dr. Peris has been both locally and internationally recognized for his work and contribution for the Sri Lankan cinema. He was honoured with the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2012 Derana Lux Film Awards and at the Sri Lankan of the Year Award ceremony last year. At last year's Sri Lankan of the Year Award ceremony, his wife Sumitra Peris accepted the award on his behalf.
I have to thank Derana on behalf of my husband.
A video of Dr. Peris enjoying a song from his own movie together with several young actors of the film fraternity was seen posted via social media after his passing.
I'll take it for the next film.
The veteran film director passed away at the age of 99 while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo yesterday. His remains were brought to the residence on Sir Lester James Peris Mawatha, Colombo 5, for the public to pay their last respects. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and Minister Wajira Abeyewardena paid their last respect to the late veteran. Other politicians, artists from the film fraternity and members of the public continued to visit the residence to pay their final respects.
When you talk about the Sri Lankan art industry, there are only a handful of legends. And when you take cinema, there's no any other person other than Dr. Lester James Peris who has changed the complexion of the national cinema. He created the way how to do the national films with the national texture, national color and national sense. He is the father, he is the teacher of the real national Sri Lankan cinema.
The death of Dr. Lester James Peris is something quite devastating, and my first entrance to acting was under their influence. It was directed by Mrs. Peris, but Sir was always on set. I remember the love, the strength they gave me, and I remember how delicate they were in handling us. We were a young bunch of girls and boys. His wealth of knowledge in all aspects enriched our lives, and he would never die, just like his movies will be immortal in our hearts.
I'm glad that I have been associating Dr. Lester James Peris for so long. I'm proud of taking part in his first ever television production he made called Avarshana, and the only one he created. He never put pressure on artists. He was a lovely human being having so much of humor. He was like another youth who had that youthfulness and all that energy with him.
President Maithripala Sirisena meanwhile instructed to conduct the funeral of Dr. Lester James Peris under state patronage. His final rites will be held at the Independence Square on Wednesday, the 2nd of May at 4 p.m.
Life and my people have been very good to me. I hope that through my films I have given something back to them.
With the entire nation awaiting new developments over the said reappointment of Cabinet of Ministers, political sources confirmed to Ada Derana that a new cabinet is expected to be appointed tomorrow. Incidentally, this will become the fourth cabinet since President Maithripala Sirisena took office in January 2015.
President Maithripala Sirisena in January this year expressed his intention to appoint a new cabinet of ministers for the unity government after the local authorities election on the 10th of February this year. However, following the political upheaval caused by the mini polls, only a few of the UNP ministerial positions of the unity government were changed, while no changes were made to the ministerial positions of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. It was in this backdrop that 16 ministers of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party vacated their positions in the unity government, expressing their opposition to Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe by way of voting in favour of a no-confidence motion brought against the Premier. President Sirisena then stated that a complete reappointment of the cabinet will be carried out.
I would like to say that I will solve all the pressing issues of the country and government through the appointment of a new cabinet on May Day.
Accordingly, political sources confirmed that the new cabinet of ministers will be appointed at the Presidential Secretariat at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Subjects of the ministerial positions are to be gazetted on the basis of a scientific method, as the President has stated recently. However, sources also say certain subjects of ministers will remain unchanged. It has been reported that the first meeting of the newly appointed cabinet of ministers will be held tomorrow evening itself. After the decision by the 16 members of the SLFP who vacated their positions in the unity government, there remains 41 cabinet ministerial positions including that of the President and Prime Minister, 17 deputy ministerial positions and 19 state ministerial positions. We also sought views regarding expected appointments of the new cabinet of ministers.
I have been requested to be present tomorrow at not later than 9:30 at the President's Secretariat. The reason happens to be the cabinet reshuffle. Obviously, we ministers weekly meet at the President's Secretariat on Tuesdays for a weekly cabinet meeting. But in addition to that subject, very specifically, we have been told that there's going to be a cabinet reshuffle tomorrow. I believe all the other, my colleagues, the cabinet also, would have been received such invitations. Let us see, wait and see tomorrow.
President will appoint a new cabinet of ministers. Ministerial subjects will be allocated on a scientific basis. The country will move forward after all the political uncertainty. The national government concept will continue.
Chairman of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana parliamentarian Professor G.L. Piris meanwhile stated that there should not be any faith in the new cabinet of ministers as many changes are not expected in the ministerial portfolios. Speaking to First at 9 today, he said the government must instead focus on pressing social and economical challenges the country is currently facing.
I don't think that there is any reason to have confidence in a proper cabinet being constituted tomorrow. We had a categorical assurance from the cabinet spokesperson that a new cabinet would be sworn in and would be in place prior to the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. That did not happen. Previous to that also, there were a couple of deadlines that were given. Those came and went without any action. President Maithripala Sirisena, unfortunately, is not in a position to decide and act according to decisions that he makes in the exercise of his prerogative powers as president of the country. There's too much pressure. He has to give in to the UNP and its leader, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. What I would anticipate certainly is a very cosmetic exercise, a few changes here and there. In any case, how can His Excellency President Sirisena, as the leader of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, make decisions for the party? We have the bizarre situation of 16 members of that party writing to the Speaker saying that they want to detach themselves from the government and take their seats in the opposition. Then 23 other people belonging to that party continue to be members of the government. But even they were not in a position to express their confidence in the Prime Minister when a no-confidence motion was brought against the Prime Minister. They chose to absent themselves, neither here nor there. So in those circumstances, this is one more exercise to throw dust in the eyes of the people. What is important now is not just a change of faces, a changing pillows to cure headache, but to address the burning economic issues of the country. National debt increasing by something like 300 rupees an hour. Nothing is being done about that. The taxes that are being imposed by the people, when you compare the quantum of taxation in 2014, 1 trillion, it is double that in 2018. The rupee is completely crashing. It will go well beyond 140 rupees. Government needs to get a grip on the issues of the day to give relief to the people. That is long overdue.
Meanwhile, JVP parliamentarian Vijitha Herat claims that the government is ridiculing the general public by appointing a new cabinet. Speaking to First at 9 today, the parliamentarian said that a new cabinet will not bring solutions to the changes expected from within the government.
Government is going to form a new cabinet. Actually, it is a joke. At the very beginning of this government has promised to form a new cabinet in a scientific way. But there is no any science. The reshuffle of the cabinet is not a solution for the people. People are suffering a lot. Gas price has increased by 245 rupees. There are 52,000 unemployment graduates are there. And our rupees has depreciated. The government did this joke earlier. Now they are going to replay last drama again. As a party, we think this is not the real solution for the people. Without a real system change, people cannot solve their problems.
You are
watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe engaged in religious observances and events organised in line with Vesak Full Moon Poya Day yesterday.
An exhibit to showcase the sacred relics of Lord Buddha brought from Sarnath province in India and Takshila in Pakistan was showcased for public veneration yesterday. The event, which took place at the temple trees, was organised by the Prime Minister's office. The opening ceremony was held under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The sacred relics will be exhibited to the public till 3rd of May. Meanwhile, the Vesak zone organised by Hunupitiya Gangarama Temple together with the temple trees was declared open by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe last evening.
It has been 4 years since we began the Buddha Rashmi festival after the current government came to power. We're saddened that there are some government institutions who do not even take part in meetings. During the former regime, government institutions would be obliged when instructed by the president to provide assistance. It seems now that there are some government institutions which have forgotten that there are leaders in this country or that there is a government.
The Prime Minister also declared open a pandal erected in Madivela.
As we declare open this pandal at Papiliana Junction, my only wish is that we receive the blessings of the Mahasangha. My only fear is that our Prime Minister, Minister Dayagamage, Minister Anuma Gamage, the Speaker and Buddha Sasana Minister Gamini Javikrama Pereira could issue an order to arrest us because there were restrictions on pandals. However, all of you are taking part in a meritorious deed. When this government came to power, we wanted to make Vesak Poya Day an international event. Vesak is mostly observed in Sri Lanka and Thailand. This is also a day that a lot of tourists come to witness and engage in the experience.
Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena declared open the 17th annual Bauddha Loka Vesak zone held last evening. The casket containing the sacred relics of Lord Buddha brought from Asgiri Viharaya was ceremoniously displayed at the event by the President.
The country was lit up by pandals and lanterns yesterday in celebration of the sacred day of Vesak Poya, also referred to as Buddha Purnima in certain communities. Dansals, a Buddhist practice of sharing food in a gesture of showing generosity, as well as Vesak devotional songs locally known as Bhaktigi, were a frequent scene throughout Colombo and across the country. Many temples were also seen filled with devotees to mark this pious occasion.
Buddhist devotees were seen in numbers at temples to pay homage to the Triple Gem and observe religious activities in lieu of the day of Vesak Full Moon Poya, which marks the birth, enlightenment and parinibbana of Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, the greatest day of significance to Buddhists throughout the world. Large crowds of devotees gathered at the special Vesak zone organised by Derana Media Network together with the Colombo Municipal Council, which was declared open by the Mayor of Colombo, Rosi Senanayake, yesterday. The Vesak zone will continue to be open for the public at the premises of the Colombo Municipal Council and Vihara Mahadevi Park until tomorrow. A dansal organised by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources was held yesterday at the ministry premises with the participation of Subject Minister Arjuna Ranatunga. Meanwhile, a number of programs including pandals and dansals were organised in Colombo in celebration of the Vesak Full Moon Poya Day.
මේ මහා ක්‍රූෂරත්නය සාරා සංකේ කල්පලක්ෂයක් පෙරුම්දම් පුරාගෙන ආවේ මේ ආසනයේ මත වැඩ සිටි මහතා සහ ඉනෝකා උදේජු හඬ රංගවේදී.
Meanwhile, a variety of dansal and other religious events, including devotional songs, were organized around the country.
World stocks are set to notch up a positive month for the first time since January as a slew of positive earnings from US technology firms helped soothe memories of February tremors. A seemingly successful Korean summit between the leaders of the North and South last week added the icing on the cake, pushing Asian bourses higher today. MSCI's all-country index of global equities is up 1.3% for April ahead of another torrent of first-quarter earnings. US stock index futures posted solid gains ahead of today's open as investors prepare for morning economic data and corporate earnings. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures rose 102 points, indicating a high open of 117.81 points. Nasdaq 100 and the S&P 500 futures also indicated an upbeat start to the session for their respective markets. In Asia, stocks finished trade positively as investors watch for political news coming out of the Koreas. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan climbed 1%, adding to a similar rise on Friday. The index is now poised for a modest rise this month after 2 consecutive losses. Meanwhile, South Korea's Kospi index jumped 0.8% and is set to end April more than 2.5% higher, following record profits from tech giant Samsung Electronics and after successful inter-Korean summit. In Europe, equities attempted to post gains as merger news and earnings kept market participants busy. The pan-continental stocks index rose 0.1%, while Germany's DAX gained 0.3%, buoyed by investors' improved risk appetite. Meanwhile, the dollar held steady just below its strongest level since mid-January against a basket of currencies as traders awaited US consumer spending numbers to see whether the greenback can continue its recent run of gains. 25 leading international companies from 11 countries signed contracts this weekend to take part in the first China International Import-Export in November in Shanghai, increasing the total number of signed participant companies to over 1,100. The expo provides an opportunity for all the countries in the world to discuss about major issues of foreign trade and world economy and to improve global economic governance. Among the 25 companies, 20 are in the manufacturing industry, such as machinery and automotive, and 8 are Fortune 500 companies. In May last year, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced at the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation that China will hold the CIEE in 2018. Among all signed companies, 400 companies cemented their participation in April. Let's now cross over to a short commercial break.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
At least 29 people were killed in 2 explosions in the Afghan capital, Kabul, including a leading photographer for the AFP agency and several other journalists documenting the scene. The first explosion was carried out by an attacker on a motorbike. The second followed about 15 minutes later after a crowd, including several reporters, had gathered at the scene. The Islamic State group said it had carried out the attack. In a tweet, the news agency said the second blast had deliberately targeted a group of journalists. Afghan Interior Minister spokesperson told at least 8 journalists and 4 police officers were among the dead. 45 people have been reported injured by the explosion. British Prime Minister Theresa May appointed Pakistani origin cabinet member Sajid Javid, a second-generation migrant, as the new Home Secretary of the United Kingdom. Javid becomes the first ever British Muslim and British Pakistani to get the most important cabinet position in the UK after the Prime Ministers. Earlier, Britain's Interior Minister Amber Rudd resigned after the government struggled to contain the fallout over the way it has treated some long-term Caribbean immigrants who have wrongly been labelled illegal immigrants.
For 2 weeks, British ministers have been struggling to explain why some descendants of the so-called Windrush generation invited to Britain to plug labour shortfalls between 1948 and 1971 had been labelled as illegal immigrants. The Windrush scandal overshadowed the Commonwealth Summit in London this year and has raised questions about Theresa May's 6-year stint as Interior Minister before she became Prime Minister in the wake of 2016 Brexit referendum. Before her resignation today, Britain's Interior Minister Amber Rudd apologised for not being aware of the use of migrant removal targets in her department and vowed to implement fair and human immigration policy. She, however, faced repeated calls from the opposition Labour Party to resign after she gave contradictory statements about meeting targets for deportations. Meanwhile, Sajid Javid, who was named the new Home Secretary today following Rudd's resignation, is the son of a Pakistani bus driver whose family came to the UK in the 60s. Javid, a Member of Parliament for Bromsgrove, was earlier the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Javid is the first ever British Muslim and British Pakistani to get the post, the most important cabinet position after the Prime Ministers. He is the first Asian minority ethnic politician to hold the role, and his appointment is widely seen to offer hope to critics that the government is aware of how damaging the issue has been for community relations and trust in the immigration system.
After historic talks between the North and South Korea last Friday, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is now ready to visit North Korea this week. The trip comes amid a flurry of diplomatic activity following the landmark day on the peninsula.
China is North Korea's only remaining economic ally, but Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to the Pyongyang will be its highest-level visit in years. China says the visit from May 2nd to 3rd is at the invitation of North Korea. China's foreign ministry earlier welcomed the announcement on the halt in nuclear and missile tests in North Korea, saying it would ease tension in the Korean peninsula. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is expected to meet US President Donald Trump in the coming weeks. While Trump has pressed North Korea to dismantle its nuclear program ahead of the meeting, US National Security Advisor John Bolton, however, said yesterday that his country isn't starry-eyed that the reclusive state will follow through on its commitment. He expressed these views during an interview with the US-based Fox News channel.
We'll want to test North Korea in this first meeting for evidence that they have made that strategic decision. There's nobody in the Trump administration starry-eyed about what may happen here. But by demonstrating they've made a strategic decision to give up nuclear weapons, it would be possible to move quickly, as the Libya case demonstrates.
Sri Lanka emerged champions in the Under-15 Cricket Challenge held in Malaysia. The champions returned to Sri Lanka yesterday and were warmly welcomed at the Bandaranaike International Airport.
The Under-15 cricket tournament got underway in Malaysia from 23rd to 28th April. This was the 15th year the challenge was held, since its inauguration in 2004. Countries including Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Malaysia and South Africa vied for the Tuanku Jaffer Trophy in Kuala Lumpur. Sri Lanka emerged victorious for the 12th year after defeating Bangladesh in the final clash of the tournament. The champions returned to the country yesterday and were welcomed at the Bandaranaike International Airport.
Bangladesh මේ ඉතාමත්ම තරගයක් දුන්නා අපිට ෆයිනල් එකේ. අපේ කණ්ඩායම ඉතාමත් හොඳින් සෙල්ලම් කරා. එන්න ජයග්‍රහණ.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Your temperatures for tomorrow are to vary between 21 and 35 degrees Celsius, with the lowest and highest expected in Kandy and Mullaitivu respectively. When looking at the map, a low pressure zone will form from the western province and will gradually disappear. Well, sunny weather is forecasted in the areas of Jaffna, Mana, Vaunia and Anuradhapura. But in the areas of Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Matara as well as Hambantota, however, will experience showers with thunder showers also expected. That's all we have from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
And before we go tonight, we'd like to show you the colourful visuals of pandals and lanterns displayed around the country to mark the day of Vesak Full Moon Poya Day. We hope you enjoy these visuals. Have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.